evening and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, Amnesty International accuses some top military officers of complicity in the extrajudicial killing of over 8,000 people in the northeast. The Nigerian army refutes Amnesty's claim, describes the group's report as blackmail. The president renews his commitment to track Boko Haram into a corner to destroy it. President Buhari says 5 years of the presence of the sect is enough. And more than 50 labs in 17 U.S. states and 3 foreign countries have been mailed samples of live anthrax.
And on Business News tonight, experts call for removal of fuel subsidy, calling it unsustainable.
And on sports news, outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome forces Korean authorities to postpone the Suwon four-nation invitational involving the Golden Eaglets of Nigeria.
International human rights group Amnesty International has accused some top military officers of complicity in the extrajudicial killing of over 8,000 people in the northeast. In a report presented in Abuja today, Amnesty is demanding the investigation of the Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, and the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Kenneth Minima. Also accused in the report are the former Chief of Defense Staff, retired Admiral Ola Saad Ibrahim, and the former Chief of Army Staff, retired General Azubike Ihejirika. 5 other senior military officers were named for investigation in the report. In its latest report on the fight against the insurgents, Amnesty accused the leadership of the military of participating, sanctioning, and failing to prevent the violations. The report alleges that the senior military officers were duly informed of the arbitrary arrests, unlawful detentions, and extrajudicial killing of civilians, but reportedly did nothing about them.
Over the years, the Nigerian military has been engaged in a security operation to clear the northeastern part of the country of Boko Haram insurgents. However, the troops have been accused of extrajudicial killings by international human rights organization Amnesty International in its latest report.
Amnesty International research shows that the military executed these people after they have been captured, when they presented clearly no danger. Many were shot dead inside detention facilities, while others were either shot or had their throats cut after being captured during cordon and search operations.
All of the arrests that are being conducted are reported to Army headquarters. How many people were arrested during cordon and search operations? They usually label those arrested as confirmed Boko Haram members or confirmed Boko Haram terrorists, but they do never reference any evidence against them.
In the report titled "Stars on Their Shoulders, Blood on Their Hands: War Crimes Committed by the Nigerian Military," Amnesty International alleged that at least 7,000 people died in detention, over 1,000 people were executed extrajudicially, and at least 20,000 people, mostly young men and boys, were arrested arbitrarily. The group insisted that some top military officers must be investigated for their roles in the extrajudicial killings.
Based on all of this information about the knowledge and failure to act, we're calling for an investigation for war crimes of murder, enforced disappearance, and torture of the following individuals. Lieutenant General Azubuike Ihejirika, who was Chief of Army Staff from September 2010 until he retired in January 2014. Admiral Ola Saad Ibrahim, who was the Chief of Defense Staff from 4th of October 2012 until 16th January 2014. Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, he was Chief of Defense Staff from January 16th to the time of this writing. And finally, Lieutenant General Kenneth Minima. He was Chief of Army Staff from 16 January 2014 to the time of this writing.
Amnesty International had shared their findings with government officials at a series of meetings. They're hoping that the new government of President Muhammadu Buhari will muster the political will to investigate these claims.
In the meantime, the president says that he's renewed his commitment to track Boko Haram into a corner to destroy it. President Muhammadu Buhari says that 5 years of the presence of the sect is enough. He also says that he's confident that the military can overcome and eradicate Boko Haram. The president, who's on an official visit to Niger Republic, told journalists after talks with President Isufu Mahamudu that the Nigerian army, which has earned a good reputation across the world, remains a virile fighting force. He says that he's 4 days in office today, and already his administration has started the process of ending the insurgency. The president adds that in the course of the meeting that he held with heads of Nigeria's armed forces and security agencies, ongoing operations against Boko Haram were reviewed for better results. According to the president, because of the nature of terrorism, the movement of terrorists across borders, and the unconventional nature of the war against terror, Nigeria will continue to seek the support of neighboring countries in its bid to overcome Boko Haram. The president has been meeting with his service chiefs, and the federal government intensifies its war against terror. Now, a senior Nigerian officer, Major General Tukuru Yusuf Buratai, has been appointed to take charge of the regional military force against Boko Haram. Nigeria's defense headquarters says that Major General Buratai has assumed duties as head of the multinational joint task force in Chad's capital, N'Djamena. The 8,700-strong force of military personnel, police and civilians includes Nigeria and neighboring Chad, Cameroon, Niger and Benin. All 5 countries agreed earlier this year to boost cooperation to contain the regional threat posed by the Islamist group, whose violent insurgency has killed at least 15,000 since 2009. A military coalition of Nigeria, Chad, Niger and Cameroon has been involved in operations against the militants in northeast Nigeria and border regions since February, with reported success. Moving on now, and the trial of Aminu Oguche and 5 others charged with the bombing of a motor park in Nyanya on the outskirts of Abuja has been stalled because there was no screen to protect the witnesses. Justice Ahmed Mohammed had slated the case for trial within trial to ascertain the veracity of the statements made by the accused persons after they allegedly said there was severe beating and torture against the Department of State Services. Justice Ahmed Mohammed subsequently adjourned the case to the 16th and 17th of June for trial. The accused persons, Aminu Oguche, Ahmed Abubakar, Muhammad Ishak, Yau Saidu, Anas Isa, and Adamu Yusuf, were alleged to have masterminded the April 14, 2014 Nyanya Motor Park blasts that killed scores of passengers and destroyed several vehicles.
Well, obviously, the matter ought to proceed today, to trial, but that for the obvious reasons that you knew, you were in court, you noticed what happened. It's no fault of any one of us. And then, if the screen is not there, the trial will not commence. Certainly, the provision must be made for the screen, and that was what necessitated the adjournment.
Now, 24 hours to the expiration of the 7th Assembly, and the Senate has passed 46 bills under a special procedure adopted by the lawmakers. The normal procedure for lawmaking stipulates that a bill must pass through 3 phases: first reading, second reading, and third reading, before it can be passed into law. But the Chairman Senate Committee on Rules and Business, Senator Ita Enang, urged federal lawmakers to invoke Order 1B of the Senate Standing Rules to clear the coast for the passage of the bills. Let's move on now. And the National Assembly has unanimously approved 15 advisors for President Muhammadu Buhari. The President had written to the Senate asking for approval to appoint 15 special advisors. In a letter to the Senate President David Mark, which was read on the floor of the upper chamber, President Buhari stated that the appointment will enable him to do his work as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces.
The life of the 7th Assembly is to expire on Thursday, June 4th, 2015. This means that the National Assembly is in a race against time to pass pending bills in both chambers. With the clock ticking to the last minutes, the Senate, in a surprising move, passed 46 bills in one swoop without the customary legislative procedure. Some of the bills passed are the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Establishment Act, Office of a Nigerian Financial Ombudsman Bill, Institute of Chartered Trustees of Nigeria Bill, National Convict and Criminal Records Bill, as well as Community Service Bill, National Commission for Rehabilitation Bill, Whistleblower Protection Bill, Family Economic Advancement Program Bill, Family Support Trust Fund, Anti-Torture Bill, and Lobbyist Registration and Regulation Bill, among others. The chairman, Senate's Committee on Rules and Business, argued that it was necessary for the Senate to pass the bills even without legislating on them.
Mr. President, with respect, sir, today is the last but one day of the sitting of the House, of the Senate. And Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, we have our bills which we have passed on the floor of this Senate, which unless the House concurs and passes the bill will not become law. Therefore, the Senate leader, myself, the House leader, and the chairman of Rules and Business Committee met, and we decided that on the basis of legislative reciprocity, that as we take their bills and pass their bills, they will take our bills and pass our bills in the same manner.
But another federal lawmaker, Senator George Sekibo, raised a point of order as he drew the attention of the Senate to Section 79(1) of the Senate Standing Rules, which states the procedure for passing bills.
Every bill shall receive 3 readings previous to its passage, which reading shall be in different ways, unless the Senate unanimously direct otherwise.
But when the Senate President called for a voice vote on the bills, majority of the senators supported the passage.
Those in favor that will concur with the bills from the House of Representatives say aye. Aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it.
But it was clear that some lawmakers were thoroughly dissatisfied with the passage of the bills. Following the sharp disagreements that arose in the chamber, the Senate President ruled that any lawmaker who disagreed with the passage of the bills could come back with a substantive motion on Thursday. Linda Kibe, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, at least 6 people killed in yet another explosion in Borno State. That's in a moment. You stay with us.